Well, hello everyone. This is me, Arya Sopa, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you all remember, we started with SQC 1 and SA 220 for quality control, and we are going to start our lecture right from where we ended the last one. I hope you all remember what we all studied or what we learned in the last lecture. So let's begin. If you remember, I told you that for understanding why you need to study this chapter, why you need to emphasize on quality control for CAs, you need to understand why is it that quality is important in the field of work that we are in. And for upcoming CAs, why is it that they have to maintain the highest standards of quality in all their professional engagements, whether it be assurance or otherwise? So let's start. Now, we studied that in order to understand why quality control is important, we need to understand few things, as in why the quality is needed and what are the elements. So for a professional system, for a full-fledged system of quality control, there are 6 basic elements that we need to keep in mind. The first one we read was leadership responsibilities of quality within the firm, which basically emphasized on the management's role, the firm's role, the senior partner's role in maintaining quality throughout the engagement and otherwise as well. Next, we studied about ethical requirements. We studied why there are fundamental principles of professional ethics that we read about objectivity, integrity, the professional competence, and due care. We also studied about confidentiality, then professional behavior. Why is it important for a CA to be high in integrity, to be high in objectivity, to exercise independence? We all studied that. And then we also studied the acceptance and continence of client relationships and specific engagements. So we were in the third part only. We studied about the client relationships, why we need to so we know that we need to be independent, we know that we need to have integrity, we need to exercise objectivity. But if our client is not following a proper system of internal controls, if he is not free from all these like money laundering and all of that, if he is the one, if our client is the one who is responsible for money laundering or something like that, then why we need to first discuss it with the client itself. And if we are not able to come to a conclusion, we are not able to come to a proper discussion with them, why is it important to leave that audit if we can? So after we are done studying that, let us understand that once you are aware about the client, you also need to be aware about yourself. So what all do you need to understand while accepting or while continuing any engagement? That is important. So अभी आपको पता चला दैट आपका क्लाइंट जो है उसका इंटरनल कंट्रोल कैसा है, आपको पता चला वो कौन कौन सी बिजनेस प्रैक्टिसेस फॉलो करता है, हाउ is it important for the management, the TCWG, those charged with governance basically, to follow, how aggressively they follow accounting standards, how aggressively do they follow all the responsibilities while drafting, while preparing the financial statements. Uske baad, after you've chosen to work with that particular client, you also need to see if you have enough resources. So what all do you need to understand? You need to understand that your personnel, the firm's personnel, need to have knowledge of relevant industries, the subject matters. You also need to understand that they should have experience in the relevant industry. Unko pata hona chahiye that they have the relevant knowledge of the industry, first thing. They also need to have relevant regulatory or reporting requirements the experience with all of that. They need to have, actually, your firm should have personnel who are experienced. Your firm should have personnel who are experienced in specifically that industry. Then you also need to have sufficient personnel. एक बात सोच के देखो, अगर कोई 4 मेंबर की फर्म है, सीए फर्म, जिसमें there are, let's say, 2 partners and just 2 interns, then what do you suggest? Should they actually go forward with auditing a proper listed entity जिसका अलग अलग branches है पूरा, let's say, इंडिया में? Yeah, I would not suggest that also. तो इसलिए and would you suggest a CA firm जिसने, let's say, 2 years ago ही अपना practice शुरू किया है? We will understand all of that a CA firm who has just started cannot actually audit a listed entity unless you have the prerequisites, which are n number of experience, which are n number of let's say the members. So all of that we are going to study in the upcoming classes, but this is what I'm telling you, you need to have all of that. आपको पता होना चाहिए that the client जिसका आप audit करने जा रहे हो, उसकी क्या environment है, उसका क्या environment है, उसकी क्या situation है, but then you also need to understand आपका क्या environment है, आपका क्या situation है. तो आपको ये भी देखना है कि आपके एक्सपर्ट्स अवेलेबल हैं या नहीं, अगर चाहिए उस पर्टिकुलर इंडस्ट्री का ऑडिट करने के लिए. Individuals meeting criteria and eligibility requirements to perform engagement quality. So control review available. So basically the requirements to perform the quality are available or not, and whether the firm will be able to complete the engagement within the टाइम. तो अगर रिसोर्सेज कम होंगी तो टाइम ज़्यादा लगेगा. टाइम ज़्यादा नहीं चाहिए तो आपको सैम्पल सिलेक्ट करने पड़ेंगे. सैम्पल सिलेक्ट करने में देर आर चांसेस ऑफ मिसस्टेटमेंट्स बीइंग इग्नोर्ड, विच इज़ एक्चुअली रिपोर्टिंग it is an error and fraud. So you need to be able to detect. It's kind of a risk. It's called the detection risk, that even after you're aware about the internal control system and all of that, still you might have chances of not being able to detect the misstatement when it actually is there in the financial statements. So all of that you need to be aware about. उसके बाद हमें क्या देखना है, देखो, then we need to be aware about. So basically, suppose करो आपने एक ऑडिट फर्म, आपने एक एंगेजमेंट थी, एक क्लाइंट था जिसका आपने ऑडिट एक्सेप्ट किया, बट एज यू वर फॉलोइंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ ऑडिट यू रियलाइज दैट उस क्लाइंट के कुछ ऐसी इंफॉर्मेशन थी अवेलेबल जो आपको अभी पता चली है वाइल ऑडिटिंग, that if you might have earlier noticed you would not have probably accepted the assignment. तो आप क्या करोगे? Then you will follow the policies and procedures for continuance of engagement. That is the reason why CAs need to have, the firms need to have a proper set of policies and procedures जिससे कुछ भी अगर प्रॉब्लम हो तो उसका solution instantly निकल पाए. ठीक है? So connect this. Okay. Auditing is very simple. You just need to connect the dots. You need to connect it, you need to feel it, you need to evaluate it with respect to the assignments that you've been on. इसीलिए I say that when you are actually doing articleship, when you are actually going somewhere, auditing for that for particular clients, let's say you're getting the right kind of exposure that you should, and that is actually the main aim behind behind this articleship thing. It's not to get cheap labor, but it's also to give you experience. It's also to give you the right amount of exposure that is needed in order for you to be future CAs. So make good use of that. So what are you going to do if you find out that पॉलिसीज़ और प्रोसीजर्स लगाने की ज़रूरत है? तो आप क्या करेंगे? सोच के देखो. आप देखेंगे कि कौन सी प्रोफेशनल, कौन सी लीगल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ है आपकी. आपको कहीं इंटिमेट तो नहीं करना, किसी रेगुलेटरी बॉडी को तो नहीं बताना. the circumstances including whether there is requirement to report to the person, अगर आपको ऐसा लगता है that it is necessary for you to report to that person also, जो client है आपका actually, the management, those charged with governance, if you need to actually convey these things that you found out during the audit to them, तो वो करना पड़ेगा. And then the possibility of withdrawing from the engagement if the need arises. Next is, let's say supposedly the policies and procedures on withdrawal from the engagement, what are you going to do? सबसे पहले you will discuss with the client's management and those charged with governance the action that you are planning to take. So for example, आपको समझ आता है कि अरे ये client तो इसका तो कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, कुछ तो गड़बड़ है दया, तो आप क्या करोगे? What I suggest is you need to basically, and it's written also basically, you need to go to the client's management, those charged with governance, the people who actually they actually gave that appointment to you to perform the audit. You need to tell them that these are the problems and this is the plan that we as a firm are planning to take. अगर firm को ऐसा लगता है कि विड्रॉ करने की ज़रूरत है असाइनमेंट से, तो वो भी बताएगा क्लाइंट के मैनेजमेंट को, TCWG को, अबाउट द विड्रॉल एंड द रीजंस फॉर विड्रॉल if the case may be, and then considering whether there is any requirements that they need to follow, which means the PRL requirements that the firm needs to follow. PRL is professional, regulatory and legal requirements. So that along with the reasons of withdrawal, you have to inform to the regulatory authorities as well. And then if there are significant issues, conclusions, consultations, all of that you had to come up with, you had to actually invest your time in during the audit, you need to tell that also, you need to document that also. Next, we are done with third one. Now the fourth one is human resources. किसी भी firm में, in fact किसी भी industry में, the most important of all is the human resources. अगर आपके personnel, the people who are working for you, if they are not efficient, if they don't have the required skills, they don't have the required capabilities, then it is going to hamper the growth of the firm in total. So there has to be policies and procedures for reasonable assurance that you have sufficient personnel to perform the audit that we studied earlier as well. And the policies and procedures should also address the issues like recruitment, promotion, compensation, training, career development. All of that needs to be done as is done in, let's say, companies or in corporates. So what all do you need to do? You basically need to establish policies and procedures, but कैसे policies and procedures? देखो, you have to identify the identity and role of the partner to the key members of the client's management at TCWG. So basically, while accepting the audit, आपको बताना होता है कि आपका काम क्या होगा. आप मैनेजमेंट को और TCWG को बताओगे, देखो मेरा काम फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाना या उनको बनाना बेसिस से या फिर बुक कीपिंग करना, ये सब मेरा काम नहीं है. आप उनको बताओगे आई जस्ट am going to review the financial statements. Then the engagement partner, you also have to say that the partner has capabilities, they have competence to perform this role, and within the time frame that you have mentioned, we'll be able to complete this. And the responsibilities of engagement partner will be defined and communicated to that partner also. तो आपको 3 चीज़ें करनी है. पहले मैनेजमेंट और TCWG को बताना है कि रोल क्या है, फिर आपको बताना है कि इसके पास प्रॉपर कैपेबिलिटीज़ है, कॉम्पिटेंस है, रिसोर्सेज है, टाइम है, सब कुछ है जिससे वो ये रोल कर पाएगा. एंड देन यू हैव टू कम्युनिकेट दिस टू द एंगेजमेंट पार्टनर ऑल्सो कि देखो तुम्हारा ये काम है एंड यू हैव टू रिपोर्ट इट टू अस आफ्टर यू आर डन विद द ऑडिट. नेक्स्ट इज एंगेजमेंट परफॉर्मेंस. सो ये बहुत छोटे छोटे हैं, आई नो जल्दी जल्दी ख़त्म हो रहे हैं एंड वील हैव इट दैट वे ओनली. एंगेजमेंट परफॉर्मेंस का क्या मतलब है? देखो दैट बेसिकली यू हैव टू ब्रीफ योर एंगेजमेंट टीम. क्या आपको लगता है जब कोई ऑडिट करने जाता है तो कौन कौन जाता है? आप भी गए होंगे, आपको पता होगा देयर इज दिस वन सीनियर एंड हु accompanies you. He might be like, he has to be a chartered accountant, of course, but then there are also some juniors, like his juniors. Basically they are like masters of in commerce. They can be postgraduate, they can be graduates, and after that they need to have people like you, like articles, and who are going to support them in the work that they are going to perform. So all of that you need to have. You need to basically list down all the things that a particular team member is going to do. Sabko sab kuch nahi karna. That is the first thing. So my principal also always tells that, you know what, you don't need to do everything by yourself. Isiliye whenever we go out for audits, we have assigned roles, and that's how it should be. कोई भी, जिससे फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इट एक्चुअली लीड्स टू सेग्रीगेशन ऑफ ड्यूटीज ऑल्सो. पता रहता है कि किसको किसके लिए अकाउंटेबल करना है और किसको किस चीज़ में एक्सपर्टीज है, उस पर भी डिपेंड करता है, और हम किसको कैसे सुपरवाइज कर पाएंगे इस पर भी डिपेंड करता है. एंड देन यू डू नॉट हैव टू रिव्यू योर ओन वर्क. ऑब्वियसली सेल्फ रिव्यू थ्रेट हमें नहीं पैदा करना है, कोई और आके हमारा काम चेक करेगा. नाउ इफ there are some difficult matters, there are some contentious matters that happen throughout the audit, wherever they happen, what are you going to do? That also need to be mentioned earlier as well. So consultation honi chahiye about that in advance also. Consultation means that you have to first discuss it with the appropriate profession, the level of profession, the individuals who are within the firm, outside the firm, like experts ho gaye. And then if you feel the need, you also need to have that discussion with management, the TCWG also. So if you feel there are certain difficult matters, you have to promote quality in the audit, and so that is why you have to consult from outside also. Kisi expert ka opinion chahiye to wo bhi lena padega. Next, if we talk about the engagement quality control review, you should understand that once you're done with the audit, so this happens before signing the audit report, okay? Before actually finalizing all of that, you need to have a proper quality control review. You have to have a person who is going to be a quality control reviewer. He can be from inside the firm, but he has to be other than the engagement team. Obviously engagement team ने काम किया है, अब उसको रिव्यू कौन करेगा? उस पूरे काम को रिव्यू करेगा फर्म का ही कोई दूसरा बंदा आकर. Okay, so what do we need to do is that when throughout the engagement, the judgment should be reviewed by a reviewer to take an objective view before the report, the audit report, is issued. So it is mandatory for all audits of financial statements of listed entities. Remember, listed entities ke liye it is mandatory. But if you want, you can do it for like, if you want, you can have one inside your firm also. So in other engagements, firm should devise a criteria. Okay. And what are we going to do about that? देखो, listed entities की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो सबसे पहले हमें टीम का evaluation करना पड़ेगा कि whether the firm is independent with regards to the specific engagement. हमें देखना पड़ेगा कि कोई ऐसा member तो नहीं है टीम का जो अपनी independence को sacrifice कर रहा है. Then we have to see significant risks throughout the audit and responses that we had to those risks, whatever those risks were. फिर क्या क्या जजमेंट्स हुए विद रिस्पेक्ट टू मटीरियलिटी एंड द स्पेसिफिक रिस्क्स. तो ये बेसिकली ऐसे ही चलेगा जैसे ऑडिट प्लानिंग चलती थी कि पहले हम लोग डिवाइस करेंगे, हम पहले इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स देखेंगे फर्म को देखेंगे, उसका नेचर देखेंगे, बिजनेस का सब कुछ करेंगे, एंड देन वी विल डिसाइड कि कितना रिस्क है. देन वी विल सेट द मटीरियलिटी लेवल एंड देन वी विल सी द रिस्पॉन्सेज टू दोज असेस्ड रिस्क, एंड दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट वी आर डूइंग राइट हियर एज वेल. Then we have to see ki the differences that we had throughout the audit, whether we consulted with any expert, let's say for that, for the redressal, जिससे we could come up with a solution, and the significance and disposition of the corrected and uncorrected misstatements throughout the audit. The matters which are to be communicated to management, to TCWG, whether they had been communicated, and other parties like the regulatory bodies as well, and whether working papers selected for review reflect the work performed in relation to significant judgments and support the conclusions that you've reached, and the appropriateness of the report that you are going to issue. So this is how you need to review your work once done. I don't know how much you're getting it, because if in your firm things happen this way, you might be getting it. So you have to get it actually. So I hope that things do go in this way only in your firm while you're auditing a particular engagement. And if not, then, well, once you become CA, I suggest you follow these steps, because these are really important. Next is basically differences of opinion. So we already know that in case you have certain differences of opinion within, let's say, the team only, so we need to handle it by consulting with someone else from outside the team. If we have any differences of opinion, let's say with the management, with those charged with governance, we need to handle it in some other way. So in timely basis, you need to do that. And next is engagement documentation. We already know this, inter में भी पढ़ा था कि engagement documentation, which means the audit documentation, SA 230, you need to complete in not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. तो report issue होने से 60 days के अंदर अंदर you need to complete your documentation. And if in the same subject matter or the information, 2 or different reports have to be issued or have been issued, we have to see which one is basically the final report. And then we have to file those reports. We have to keep it in our custody. पता है हमें कि जो audit documentation है वो किसकी property है, वो firm की property होती है, ठीक है? And to maintain confidentiality, we need to keep it in a safe custody. We need to maintain integrity. We need to see and we need to identify who all are accessible, okay, to that. So what all can the firm do in order to let's say document the quality control review? So सबसे पहले तो we are going to see the procedures that are required by the firm's policies on engagement quality control review. Then we have to see the engagement quality control review has been completed before the report is issued, and the reviewer is not aware of any unresolved matters that would cause the reviewer to believe that the significant judgments the engagement team made and the conclusions they reached were not appropriate. So all of that need to be done. हमें देखना है कि क्वालिटी कंट्रोल रिव्यू जो है वो टाइमली कंप्लीट हो गया था. फिर हमें देखना है कि रिव्यूअर जो है कोई ऐसे मैटर्स तो नहीं है जो अनरिजॉल्व्ड हों अभी तक. And we have to see whether the significant judgments that the team made, the conclusions that they came across, they are appropriate or not. Then we need to then the last is monitoring. So monitoring क्या है देखो. We are done with all of that. हमें पता है कि policies maintain करनी है, procedures maintain करने हैं, हमें पता है हमें उनको procedures को follow करना है, but then we also have to review it. अगर हम उसको review नहीं करेंगे, हम उसको changes नहीं लाएंगे with respect to the audits that we are doing, as we are doing it, if we'll not make changes in that whenever required, we will not be able to catch up with the line. Okay, so what do we need to do is basically we have to decide whether जो system है quality control का हमारा firm का वो develop जो हुआ था, वो design जो हुआ था, वो appropriate design हुआ था और implement effectively हुआ है या नहीं, ये देखना है. Then we have to see whether the professional standards, whether the legal standards, whether anything basically they require any new developments, कुछ नया हमें mention करने की या फिर कुछ नया हमें बताने की ज़रूरत है या नहीं. So for example, this new concept came of audit trail, which basically meant that it is basically, if you go through that, it is something that the the companies need to maintain. They have to make sure that whenever they are bookkeeping, whenever they are maintaining the books of accounts, they have to make sure that the auditor gets to know that who has passed that entry, when was this entry passed, and whether any changes have been made ever since in that entry. So all of that need to be done now. So we have to make changes accordingly in our um, quality control system also, so that we are able to catch up with the pace. Then we have to conduct monitoring by monitoring process. This is just like controlling hota tha when we set standards, then we actually did the performance, and then we compared the two. जो भी difference था उसको we tried changing that. So that is exactly what we are going to do here as well. We will deal with any complaints, any allegations against the firm or employees for non-compliance with professional standards and the regulatory requirements. Then we have to take appropriate measures, like we have to against the personnel who did not comply with the quality control requirements, the policies that we had maintained. Then we have to take action when deficiencies in design or implementation or operation of the quality policies and the non-compliance with the system of quality control has to be done. So all of that, we are done with the first leg of the chapter so soon. Okay, so we are going to start with SA 220, which is basically the quality control for an audit of financial statements. Now, this is somewhat similar to SQC 1, but as I told, this is different also. So we are going to basically study why we have to maintain quality, what controls we have to exercise for audit of the financial statements in particular. So let's get started with that. So basically, when we start with SA 220, we need to understand that what exactly is the auditor's objective. So the objective of auditor is to implement quality control procedures at engagement level, which means at a particular client level, at a particular audit level, that provide the auditor with reasonable assurance, because an auditor can never give absolute assurance, of course. So reasonable assurance that the audit complies with professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements, which are the PRL requirements, and the auditor's report issued is appropriate in the circumstances. So we have to give two reasonable assurances. First is that audit complies with the PRL requirements and the auditor's report issued is appropriate. That's it. Okay? And the SA 220 is made and is modeled on SQC 1, as I told, and it has all the factors, it has all the elements of SQC 1 only, which is first was leadership responsibilities of quality on audits. अगर मैं ही बोलूँगी तो क्या फ़ायदा, आप लोग भी मेरे साथ बोलो जिससे रिवाइज जल्दी हो आपको. Leadership responsibilities for quality on audits. Leadership responsibilities for quality on audits. Come on. So what happens is, why is it important to maintain audit quality? क्या लगता है क्यों quality important है? देखो, सबसे पहले, we are not performing audit because we want to. We have to. ठीक है? तो we have to. Why do we have to? Because there are PRL requirements. Simple. So we have to comply with professional standards, regulatory and legal requirements. Then we have to see that the policies and procedures that we made in the firm, whether we are actually complying with those or not. फिर हमें देखना है कि जो ऑडिटर अपना रिपोर्ट इशू कर रहा है वो अप्रोप्रिएट इशू कर रहा है या नहीं. एंड लास्टली वी नीड टू सी दैट द engagement team, the team that are going to perform the audit, whether they are able to raise their issues, whether they are able to raise their concerns without fear of reprisal. मतलब वो डर के बिना अपने issues raise कर पा रहे हैं या नहीं. And the fact that quality is essential in performing audit engagements. Of course, quality is important. Not just in audit engagement, everywhere quality is important. Whatever work you're performing, you need to make sure that it is highest in quality. नेक्स्ट इज रेलिवेंट एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड्स. सो बेसिकली हम लोगों को क्या करना है, हम लोगों को आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि कहीं मेरी इंडिपेंडेंस सैक्रिफाइस तो नहीं हो रही है, वेदर देयर इज अ थ्रेट टू इंडिपेंडेंस, और अगर हो सके तो उसको एक एक्सेप्टेबल लेवल तक कम करना है. Then we have to report the engagement partner to relevant persons within the firm to determine the appropriate action that has to be taken in order to maintain independence, and if they cannot, then you have to withdraw from the engagement wherever you can. Next is acceptance and continuance of client relationships and audit engagements. Just like SQC1, we have to understand the firm we have to understand the client first, like the business that the client is engaged in. We have to understand the environment कैसा है वहाँ का, क्या क्या policies हैं firm की, firm कितनी aggressively अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स फॉलो करती है, कितनी एग्रेसिवली फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स है उसको फॉलो करती है. एंड देन जस्ट लाइक दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड वेदर द फर्म हैज़ इनफ रिसोर्सेज जिससे वो ये ऑडिट एक्सेप्ट कर पाए. Next is assignment of engagement team. Definitely we have to assign particular engagement team. हमने SQC1 में भी पढ़ा था कि engagement team has to be competent, they have to have experience, they have to have expertise, they have to have knowledge, skills with regards to the industry and also with the PRL requirements. Then engagement performance, we have to direct, we have to supervise, we have to perform the audit engagement in accordance with PRL requirements. Then we have to perform the review. Obviously, after everything is done, after all the audit is done, we have to review the audit also. That is engagement quality control review, which basically means we have to determine that the engagement reviewer has been appointed. फिर हमें ये देखना है कि जो reviewer अपॉइंट हुआ है वो क्या देखेगा, वो ये देखेगा कि जो मैटर्स थे ड्यूरिंग द ऑडिट विच वर रेज्ड, वेदर दे वर आइडेंटिफाइड एंड द क्वालिटी कंट्रोल रिव्यूअर got to know about those matters and how it actually was dealt with. And then not date the auditor's report until the review has been completed. Then differences of opinion, just like SQC1, देखो SA 220 has just been based upon the matters of SQC1 only. तो कोई भी अगर डिफरेंसेस है हमें कंसल्ट करना है, किससे कंसल्ट किया वो बताना है, क्या कंक्लूजन्स निकले वो बताना है, कैसे यू फिगर्ड आउट द प्रॉब्लम्स एंड हाउ यू फाउंड द सोल्यूशन टू दोज प्रॉब्लम्स. यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई एंड टेल ऑल ऑफ दैट. मॉनिटर करना इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट. आफ्टर यू आर डन विद ऑल द audit, you're done with quality control review, you also have to monitor the system of quality control and also all the things that are surrounding it, the requirements, the PRL requirements, whether they have been changed, whether they have been updated and all of that. Then you also have to document the same. You have to document what all the issues जो identify हुए with respect to the compliance of ethical requirements and how they were solved. Then the conclusions on compliance with the independence requirements that apply to the audit engagement. Then the conclusions reached regarding the acceptance and continuance of client relationship and audit engagements. Then the nature and scope of and conclusions resulting from consultations undertaken during the course of audit engagements. All of that you need to document. देखो. Now we are actually, I think it's the few final topics. तो आखिरी सांस ले रहा है ये चैप्टर, जल्दी ख़त्म करते हैं. SQC1 versus SA 220. Differences in their nature, the scope, the applicability. हमें पता है SQC1 is broader than SA 220. SQC1 पूरी फर्म पे लगता है, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द फर्म फिक्स करता है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू क्वालिटी. एंड SA-220 जो है वो पर्टिकुलर ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट्स पे लगता है. SQC-1 जो है वो ऑडिट्स पे भी लगता है, रिव्यूज़ पे भी लगता है और अदर अश्योरेंस एंड रिलेटेड सर्विस एंगेजमेंट्स पे भी लगता है. वेयर एज SA-220 सिर्फ ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट पे लगता है. SQC-1 जो है इट रिलेट्स टू सेटिंग द क्वालिटी कंट्रोल सिस्टम कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ पॉलिसीज एंड प्रोसीजर्स ऑफ द फर्म एज अ होल. एंड SA-220 जो है वो एक पर्टिकुलर ऑडिट एंगेजमेंट के रिगार्डिंग क्या क्या पॉलिसीज हैं, क्या क्या प्रोसीजर्स है, क्या क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ है वो फिक्स करता है. SQC-1 basically means establishing a system of quality control that provides firm with reasonable assurance, whereas SA-220 जो है it is premised on the basis of SQC-1 only, and it is within the overall context of firm system of quality control only. So next are basically requirements, the mechanisms of review of quality control. कैसे कैसे कर सकते हो. सबसे पहला था पीयर रिव्यू बोर्ड. पीयर रिव्यू बोर्ड इज़ वेरी मतलब वन ऑफ द सीनियर्स दैट आई वर्कड विद दे टोल्ड मी दैट पीयर रिव्यू बोर्ड इज़ जस्ट लाइक भाई. हमारा भाई आकर हमारे काम को चेक कर रहा है, बस सजेशंस दे रहा है, कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स होती है तो बता रहा है, एंड वी आर एक्चुअली डिस्कसिंग विद देम कि क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है और कैसे वो प्रॉब्लम्स ओवरकम हो सकती है हमारी ऑडिट की क्वालिटी मेंटेन करने में. वेयर एज क्वालिटी रिव्यू इज एक्चुअली मोर देन दैट. इट इज़ जस्ट लाइक आवर फादर कमिंग एंड चेकिंग आवर वर्क. तो पिताश्री आ रहे हैं हमारे काम चेक करने हमारा, तो थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा हमें एफर्ट्स दिखाने होते हैं. और फिर जो पापा होते हैं वो चेक भी बहुत ऐसे स्ट्रिक्टली करते हैं, अडेयर भी करते हैं टू एवरीथिंग दैट वी नीड टू अडेयर टू. तो देन वी हैव NFRA also. NFRA is basically the NFRA is the National Financial Reporting Authority, which monitors and enforces the accounting standards. ठीक है, it is concerned with accounting standards only, or oversee the quality of service associated with ensuring the compliance of the accounting standards and the auditing standards, and how we can improve the quality of service with regards to those standards only. Chaliye, I think we are done with the chapter. Yes, we are done. These are the key takeaways that you can see, and then we have some questions. I think I'll take up sometime else. And बस इसी के साथ हमारा ये चैप्टर भी ख़त्म हो गया. So this was our first chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I love auditing. I love reading about audit. I love actually going and performing audit. And if you also felt the same while understanding these topics, while getting to know about it, well, I'm glad that I could help. And stay tuned for more such videos. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and thank you so much for watching the video. Share it with everyone who you think is going to get some advantage out of it. And all the best for your exams. Thank you.